Hello and welcome to another episode of TesterSpeak Season 2. And you're watching this on the YouTube channel of the Test Chat community with your host, Brijesh Dev. Now, my guest today is somebody who I discovered has a common thread with me. We both are the products of same school, so to speak. Yeah, maybe different cities, but the school is the same. So obviously there is going to be a lot of common threads in our conversations. And apart from that, my guest today also shares a lot of common interests, especially with regards to testing. He's also a keynote speaker. He has been talking in conferences. He does a great job in sharing his knowledge with everybody. So without any further delay, let me introduce you to my guest today. Welcome, Gaurav Mahajan.
Thank you, Brijesh. Thanks for all the kind words. I'm looking forward to an interesting conversation now.
Welcome, Gaurav. Well, it is a pleasure. And like I said in the introduction, I mean, yeah, we were just talking before this interview that we both happen to be from the same school, Kendriya Vidyalaya. So we have a lot of common things to share, especially the culture that we were all used to. And by nature, Kendriya Vidyalaya itself is a multicultural environment in that school. Although you have this specific set of, say, English medium or Hindi medium or whatever based on the region, but it is culturally so diverse, and it is fun growing up being a Kendriya Vidyalaya student. It is a lot of fun. So Gaurav, curious question: from Kendriya Vidyalaya to testing, how did that happen?
So let me put it this way. So when I look back, I figure out that I was not like I was an average student, but I was a very analytical student. So I always could figure out that I was good at certain things. Like I was good at articulation. I always, kind of participated in debates and extempores, and there is a side to me which was creative, and at the same time, I was good with telling a story and being analytical about certain things like physics, not mathematics. Mathematics was not like a strong area for me. But having said that, science was definitely something which kind of, got my attention, like getting into the crux of things. So I think, after that, when I got into engineering, I figured out that that streak kind of remained. And I think in my sixth semester, I also had uh, a full-fledged subject called software engineering, and testing was part of it. And I had a good interest in basically figure out. I still remember in my sixth semester, I asked my professor, cannot that, is there not a possibility that there can be a software which can test the software? And I had no idea that, there is a Selenium out there, because it was in 2004, I guess, 2004 or 5. So I had no idea about it. And then after that, basically after I got, I was an average student. I was not like a very, I was not like somebody who could just pass out college with flaring colors, and the companies were like, lined up to throw offers at you or something like that, to be very honest. And when I kind of got out from college, I gave my last exam, and my results were like about a month away. And I thought, what I'll do, sitting at home, I was not having any offers. I was preparing for MBA. I was preparing for other exams as well. And at that point of time, I think most of my exams were also like, 4-5 months away. I went ahead and joined a call center just for the fun of it. And I thought I'll make some money and, splurge over me and stuff like that. And to my surprise, there I met somebody who said, oh, there is an interview going on there. They need like, folks who are engineers and stuff. I had no idea which this firm is all about and all that. And at that point of time, I was giving interviews. So I was, namely I was giving interviews in City and some of the other companies in Mumbai. And then I landed up my first job with eClinical Works. I randomly walked into an interview, and I actually cracked it. And then that's how it started. But interestingly, eClinical Works, my first job gave me a good opportunity in a profile where I had a lot of interaction with US-based customers. I had opportunity to basically deep dive into issues which customers were facing. These were on-premise installations. These were Apache Tomcat and Java sort of stuff. And then on top of it, MySQL, and I got to basically get my hands dirty on a lot of database customizations and implementations. And at that point of time, I also realized I got introduced to software testing, but because I used to do a lot of patch deployment. And I used to run that and fix that and show it to the customer. And the customer was like, used to give me an assertive, go ahead and stuff like that. So then slowly I could figure out that there is a whole discipline of this, right? I started reading about it a little bit. YouTube was not very beefy at that point of time. I'm talking about 14, 15 years back.
Yeah.
But I started, talking to people. That was initial years of my career. A couple of years I was with eClinical, but I was a half-baked tester by then, because the nature of my job was as such that it requires a lot of analytical, maneuvering tactics, and it also pushed me to kind of talk to customers, which I think that has put me into a pedestal that I was always comfortable talking to folks. And thanks to my participation on KV days with extempores and debates and stuff like that. So that's how it all began. I mean, that's how it all began. And then I got into my second job, where I was a full-fledged tester. That's where the actual action started for me, which was in 2009. And started off with a manual tester, and then I think there is no thing called manual testing as such, to be honest. It's a term which I avoid, so there is no manual testing as such. Taking a little bit of digression from this.
No, please go ahead. Please feel free to share your thoughts.
That reminded me of a gentleman called Puneet Soni, who was at some point of time was a chief product officer for Flipkart and next Google, and he's doing some amazing work in AI right now. And he was with he came over when one of the startups I was working in Pune was getting merged and acquired, and he was consulting that firm. And he asked a question to the 70 people in the room. Most of them were testers, like, how many of us are engineers by education or by qualification? So everybody raised their hands, right? And then he said, how many of our engineers by profession? So all the testers, they got their hand down.
Surprise, yeah.
So and I was like, okay. I was like, if you're not doing automation, you're not an engineer. Please do not be in that kind of, mindset.
Yeah.
This whole thing of manual and automation, this classist approach of having it. Yeah. So jumping back to so that's where it got started. I got introduced to load testing first of all. Then I got introduced to QTP, if you remember the.
Yeah, of course.
So, and then from QTP to Selenium, then Selenium to SOAP UI, and that's how my all my 3 years with that organization, more than 3 years, close to 4 years, I got my chance to basically go very dirty with security testing. They utilized me completely. I utilized that opportunity. It was a good give and take symbiotic relationship, to be honest. Fun working there, and so a lot of takeaways. So I was interested. They had opportunities, so it all worked out pretty well. So, and after that, it was all downhill. So it was just kept going after that.
Well, no, I think that is I think that is a very beautiful journey, and in describing that journey, you've used a couple of very interesting terms. Number one, storytelling, okay, and number two is analytical skill. These are when we talk about skills as a tester, these are the two big skills that all testers need. And what has happened over the years, of late, especially if you ask people to write their resume and they write their skills, they would go ahead and write Selenium,
Yeah.
Java, C++, whatever.
Absolutely.
Okay, so tools have suddenly become skills. Okay, now there is a clear distinction between skills and tools. Right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Tools make you better at the skills that you have.
Hmm.
Tools help you enhance or sharpen your skills. And skills are the things that you actually apply at your work to make things work. So,
True.
I mean, so when you were going through that transition of from a student to becoming an engineer, if I may say it, because testers by nature are engineers.
Yeah.
So what was the thought process that was going on in your head, especially from a skills perspective? I mean, did you think of using what skills you already had, or you were also looking for new skills to acquire as you go along?
So I think there are a couple of things which worked out well for me is that, I'll sound a little cliched, but what Steve Jobs said, right? You have to love what you do, right? It doesn't matter. I mean, it sounds cliche, but at some point of time, you realize that he's absolutely right.
Yes.
I loved what I was doing. I loved that whole process of getting independent in my life, making some money, so probably that whole coming of age sort of a process was very fascinating for me. That was a motivation in itself. So I was enjoying that phase. Plus, at the same time, there was one thought process which has not changed when you ask that from that time till now. I always wanted to be like a sponge. I keep a very, very open mind towards everything. I don't make a very hardlining baselines. I try to avoid a very extremist approach with anything in life, to be very honest. I weigh my options. I go about rational, and it helps a lot. Basically, it pushes you to always keep learning. And that is most important, because skill is not talent. Skill is something which you can acquire over the period of time.
Right.
When we are talking about, for example, storytelling, and somebody says, oh, I'm very introvert, it's okay. You can go on YouTube, you can find some good books, you can down Audible, you can spend some money. If you're not good at reading, you hear ebooks, right? There is so much of information. We are in a era of information revolution by all means. I mean, if I start talking about it, that's going to be a separate episode, but we are in fascinating times when everybody can kind of, reevaluate themselves and reskill themselves at different juncture of their life. So having said that, to your question, some of it, I was having it, I realized it in the new journey. I kind of capitalized on it. Having a good open mind, having a positive attitude, not getting influenced with everything which is around you is definitely one of them. And understanding that what your skill set or you can say your pros are, and focusing on them, and not getting into a comparison sort of a mode every now and then, not being very tough on yourself, is also a good way to have basically throughout your career. So my initial career, my investment into software testing as a professional, I think over the period of time, it worked out well. But at the same time, I never allowed myself to get very, very influenced by, what is happening? People are doing this and I'm doing this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I always realized that was all very overrated. That is all very overrated, So even when I got my first speaking opportunity, and I thought, boss, I mean, here to matlab, it's like, the keynote speakers are coming in and they have like 20 years of experience and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Will I be able to do a good job? Will I sound stupid? Will I say something I'm not exposed to? As you said, that every tester has their own unique journey, right?
Yeah.
So it is important to maintain that uniqueness instead of keep comparing that product, your own product, with everything else. Right?
Absolutely.
So these are small few things I would like to say. Having keeping a very open mind is very, very important. Acting like a sponge is very, very important.
Yeah.
But at the same time, having a good filter, not taking every criticism to your heart and allowing it to affect your you know output is also very important. So all that.
So yeah, so I quite like that balanced approach that you have. And what it clearly tells me is that, in trying to be rational towards things, you are easily able to manage the biases that are around you, which is very important because, quite often we have a tendency of ignoring all that and are driven by those biases.
Absolutely.
And especially if you look at testing today versus the way testing was a few years ago,
Yeah.
you will see so many biases that have crept into testing. For example, you were talking about, manual testing.
Mm.
Okay. From a long time, we've been hearing that testing is going to die. Then suddenly that has changed to manual testing will die. And then again, people are talking about AI will kill testing because AI will take over and it will do. And and you can see people echoing those thoughts,
Yeah.
because they are also driven by that bias.
Yeah.
And that is why I quite like the way you put it, that it's very important to have that absorbing capacity as a sponge, but also have that filter with you, which will eliminate all the misinformation,
Yeah.
and then you absorb all the good content. So you make a very good point, Gaurav. That is very important for testers. And if you guys are listening, think about this. Okay, pause whatever you are doing right now and think about this. That whatever thought process you are going through right now, okay, in testing, wherever you are in your whatever stage you are at in your career, are you able to apply your knowledge in a rational way, keeping the biases aside? So that is something that is very important. Thank you, Gaurav, for bringing out that point. And that takes me to my next question. So when people join the industry, it is seen through research and through conversations that a lot of people want to be developers.
Yeah.
They don't want to be testers.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of people are testers by accident. They are forced to become testers.
Yeah.
Okay, and they go on to do a great job, and that's why they keep doing that. And but my question to you is, for these young engineers looking at IT as a profession, and if they have to pick up testing as one of the choices that they have, what is your advice for them? What would you say to a young tester?
So I will tell them, whatever you have heard about testing, it's all wrong.
Okay, it's a good start.
So whatever you have heard that there is going to be a development team, there is going to be a testing team, and agar aapka development mein nahi hua, so you will go into testing or you'll become network engineer. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. It's horribly, horribly wrong. That start itself puts you into a place where you say, oh, there is a classes system, there is a developer, there is a tester, and otherwise there is a network guy, or there is, some sort of a maintenance guy, and things like that. No, you are in a discipline. Testing is a discipline. Testing is a line of business. Testing is a specialty. And if you don't know what is happening in that space, like this is for experienced, and for a fresher or for a newbie, I would say, go and figure out how many testing folks are speaking in the likes of Agile India conferences every year, APM conferences, Selenium conferences, Java conferences, Eclipse conferences. See how many testers are VP of technologies in the Fortune 500 companies of the world. It's a discipline. It's not a mechanical job. It requires skills. It requires proper, nice, positive, absorbing attitude. It requires ever churning cycle of learning, relearning, unlearning of stuff. It is not easy, boss. It is not that you are going to just learn Java, or not that I'm trying to put down developers. Developers also have to basically, upgrade themselves. But it is not so product managers, product owners, and testers cannot be bound to a domain or a tech stack.
Correct.
Developers sometimes do have that kind of limitation sometimes, but testers, I have worked on .NET, Java, I've worked on AI, I have worked on now I'm working for something, a giant, where there are hundreds of team, and every team has their own tech stack, and it's a huge, humongous, complicated stack of microservices.
So
right?
just to interrupt you for a bit, are you a full stack tester?
There is nothing called full stack. The stack will never be full.
Anyways, please continue.
Yes. So I would say that the focus should be what, itself the tester or that engineer in test needs to bring on the table.
Yeah.
And my whole conversation would be around that, basically, as engineer in test, these are the stuff, these are the values. You should have good analytical skills to figure out that, irrespective of tech stack, what is the architecture of that product? What is the business value that product is supposed to get into? What the end customers are looking into? These are business customers, or this is B2B or B2C? How they differently look into things? How is it cutting across? Is it on the handheld devices and web? What are the use cases? What are the edge cases? That is going to be the essence of my conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Then you will start. Once you get hold of this, you will realize that everything is on the same pattern, but having its own unique identity, right? Every project. So diversity is always going to be part of your career, as and when you grow and work with multiple organizations. And but at the same time, looking at testing as something which should be done sort of or part of the whole gamut is not, and you're not going to add value if you are having that. You yourself are thinking, oh my God, I've got testing because I passed, I collected this organization with random generation, they have put me into testing. I'm sorry, British, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, sorry, the internet was a little choppy. Yeah, so even if you're passed out of a good, randomly decided to into certain set of, don't go by what you have heard. So that is what my advice is going to be. And please take it seriously because it all works out. Yeah.
I think that is a very, very good advice. It's great advice. Now that again tickles my brain a bit, and I would like to know from you your thoughts on manual testing disappearing from this planet. Do you hear me, Gaurav?
Sorry, British, I was not able to hear your question.
Do you
yes, I
hear
can
me?
hear you now. Can you please,
Yeah.
repeat that again? Yes, I can hear you now.
My question to you is, what are your thoughts on manual testing disappearing from this planet?
Manual testing getting?
Manual testing disappearing from this planet.
Okay. All right. So my thoughts are a little, so I'll tell you what I know and what I see versus what is happening. I mean, I would like to put it across. So there are people who are extremely excited about AI. There are people who are extremely excited about end-to-end automation, service virtualization. I myself in my career is doing that. I'm doing service virtualization on lower environments and ensuring everything can be tested, shifting extreme left, right? And at the same time, doing automation on different layers, like right from unit to basically, API, UI, shadow mode testing, mutation testing. This is the kind of stuff I'm working on. Very excited. But at the same time, I believe it will take time. It is not going to happen overnight. I don't see industry getting pushed so easily. Maybe next 8 years things will be different. 8 years back things were very different. 8 years is a window period I usually see. Like, I think the cloud was there, Azure was there 8 years back. Like in 2012 also there were Azure implementations and cloud migrations and stuff like that. But like now it is at a different pace, right? But what happens really with testing software quality assurance, that unfortunately the choices of technology or the approach towards testing something is decided based on a lot of factors, like what business wants, what is the stability of the product, what nature of the business it is a service-based model, it is a product-based model, what exactly is going on, what is the scale of it, it is B2B, B2C. So there is always space for folks who are testing software as users.
Right.
There is always space for that. Maybe the scope will reduce, but space is going to always be there in certain capacity. Mm-hmm. So demand for good testers will not go down. The demand for testers with only having certain limited skills, if you will remain a software tester or test engineer who can test the software as an end user, and you have limited skills, then you're not going to scale after 8 years.
Right.
But if you're having superlative skills, I think people are still going to knock your door and say that, hey, tell me how this can be done, right? Right. Because so I think it is important to basically understand, have a very clear structural clarity in terms of what value as engineer in test you're going to bring on table, even if you're testing the software as an end user. If you can don that hat well as super user, I think it doesn't matter, right? I mean, it will not matter that it is automation or AI, to be very honest with you. But you have to be best in your segment.
Right. I quite like your references to engineer in test, and that's one of the things that a lot of testers need to realize, that when I'll tell you this, okay, a lot of testers who think that they don't use any tools, they tend to classify themselves as manual testers. And you in the very beginning you said that there's no such thing as manual testing. So when these testers, they look at designations and titles such as SDET, so they get there is this complex in their head going on, tells them that those guys are superior.
Yeah.
But they start thinking in terms of what you have been saying, as engineer in test. So even if you are not using any tool, not using any commercial tool or any tool for scripting, you are still using a lot of tools and you are still an engineer in test. Would you agree to that?
Absolutely. If you are using a software with an intent to find flaws in it, you are an engineer.
Right.
That's it. And forget about test. You are an engineer. That's it. That at that very moment. And uh, I kept on repeating that, it is important that what value you're bringing in, because that attributes to what clarity you have in your mind. What is your thought process? What is the problem you're trying to solve? So if these things are very clear, it doesn't matter that you're doing by automation or you're doing it, as from by your action, right? Which you call it as manual testing.
Right.
So there is skill set to kind of convert those actions. If they are documented, you can convert them into a script, or you can record them and use AI on top of it. But who will tell AI? Who will tell a developer or another engineer that what to script? What to do, right? So uh, you say that, for example, Tesla cars are there on the road, right? They are never going to replace a good driver.
Right.
It will take years for that to come, right? Tesla has taken years to come to this level where they can actually deploy something which can go on road like in a pretty acceptable way, right? So, but there is always going to be those kind of people who are actually training Tesla cars,
Right.
telling Tesla cars what to do, right? And it doesn't matter that they are, they're doing it manually or they're doing it through automation.
Yeah. So Gaurav, I'm interested in knowing your thoughts on how testers can actually add value to a project, to an organization, because a lot of times people get stuck thinking about their job as merely being defect detectors.
Yeah, true.
I'm a tester, I'm only supposed to find defects, is the thought process. So what other value do I bring in to the table? What else can I do? Or what else am I doing apart from just finding bugs?
So there are two types of values. I think essentially the testers, any test engineer's career kind of shapes up according to that. It's a very usual process that once you get associated to a project and you start testing that project or that product, so that product is trying to solve, right? And you slowly getting to know the nuances of the product in terms of stuff like that. So you see that there is a lot of correlation between what a product owner does or what product management does and what a test engineer does and what the end user does, right? So there is one line of thought that where the engineers can explore that, right? And in a nutshell, without getting into very much of detail, where you can absolutely get into if something is built like that, why it is being built like that. If this is the domain, then why it is what is the business value it is creating.
Right.
Second is that you understand that this is business value. You go dive into how it is assembled on the architecture level. What is the database? Are there variation of database? Are there APIs? Why these are APIs? Are the front ends? There are micro front ends, and how this whole business value is translated as a software stack. And get into that and get into the edges of that and get into the problems it is having, that arrangement is having, and why those problems are having. So this is more of a test architect role, or you can say test management or a testing leader, test engineering leader, quality engineering leader role, which I'm talking about the second part. The first part is where the testers can actually get into and play a very, very crucial role with business in basically deploying very wow value to the end user. So one is that how you contribute, you focus on why something is being built, and you enhance the quality of why. And there is another path where you focus on how it is being built and you enhance the quality of how. Right.
Yeah.
So I have been to both side of things. I think it is very interesting. The why and the how, both the part of it. Basically, if you get into why, you specifically your hover around a certain set of domains. Like somebody gets into a very detail of why in banking, then they would like to stick around into those domains, or healthcare for that matter, or any other domain. And why is that? And but how is basically cutting across various technologies? So so that is what uh, I feel. That is what I can say, that as an engineer in test, this is what you should look into. Ideal combination is that you are mindful of both the things. It helps you to basically develop a perspective. And people say that hard work can beat experience, but there are certain things which will come with time, right? As in, when you will be focused on right things, you might learn few things quickly. As in, when you will be in a position where you can kind of leverage experiences of others, you will be able to learn a thing or two quickly. But at the same time, if you focus on these two areas, it will help you build a very good holistic perspective, and it will definitely be a great value addition to your career. That thing is for sure.
Right. Absolutely. Now, of late, this has been one of my observations, and perhaps I may be wrong. I have seen, a lot of conversations around testing and testers talking a lot of stuff which is merely scratching the surface. People are kind of hesitant to go deeper into things, and when we talk about testing, they'll hold one stream and chase that. For example, for a long time, there was this dominant UI testing
Yeah.
was gone. Okay,
Yes.
with automation also, everybody was trying to automate the UI, and that's how Selenium came, and whole set of other tools follow. Now it's API. Okay, so people are talking about API, and then you have these bunch of tools. Okay, so UI, Rest Assured, Postman, Karate DSL, and so on and so forth. Okay, Cypress. Okay, and then now people have also started talking about low code, no code tools for development as well as for testing.
Yeah.
So, do you think that people are still scratching the surface and there is a lot more to be done, and they could still go deeper and look at it in a multi-dimensional way?
Uh, when you say people, you're talking about test engineers, or you're talking about the industry itself?
Both, from both perspectives. I would like to know your thoughts on both.
Yeah, sure. So I think, like, the only way to think about automation or AI is upwards. As in, it's
losing
really
you.
good that
I'm
people started off
losing you.
automating the end user's action, and that's how the UI automation got popular. Okay, just give me a second. Let me just check if. Are you able to hear me now? Is it better?
Yeah. I can hear you better now.
I think it was a little. Let me just quickly change my internet.
Sure.
Just give me a second. I think this will just help, because I mean, in between it becomes choppy for me as well. So
Yeah.
are you? Is it all right?
Yep.
Okay.
It's better now. Yes.
All right. So yes, so people got fascinated with UI testing, automation of UI testing, trying to automate, focus on tests which are only from an end user perspective. And we thought an issue is an issue if it is just caught by end user, right? Otherwise, it's not an issue. So if we can live with it, it doesn't exist. That's like that ostrich which has kind of put his head in.
Yeah.
And one fine day, boom,
Ooh.
we figured out. Yeah. So but now people are slowly focusing that why not to test and software the way it is built. Like, there are multiple layers. There is a code layer, there's API interaction service layer, there is UI. And then people are realizing that if you look at the history of all the bugs in the history of software testing which we have ever identified, 60-70% are unit test problems.
Correct.
So that means it was because the requirement was not being translated properly into a proper code, a small unit code.
Mhm.
And then people started talking about, hey, if it's a unit test problem, which we used to call it as white box testing before, unit test itself was called as like white box testing, you know. So,
Absolutely.
and there were, and it was a complete black box. Like nobody knew what is happening in white box testing. I mean, at least what I've seen in those days.
Yeah.
Now people are talking about unit testing. People are talking about mutation testing. People are talking about, okay, let me tweak all the conditions in this code. If it is equal to, let me put this into greater than equal to, or less than, or greater than. So what essentially they are doing is they're trying to put all those equivalence partitioning and all those boundary value conditions and, you know, the ISTQB test techniques into the unit level and calling it as a mutation testing in some extent, in some capacity. Although mutation testing is much more than that. But having said that, that's the base of it. I mean, from where I look at it. So now, as and when people are trying to basically focus on the different layers, the automation itself is going penetrating from UI towards, you know, down the pyramid of the testing pyramid, right? So it is going into API. I'm looking forward that someday unit testing will be automated, although it is, you know, code, but in some way. See, you have Sonar Cubes of likes of Sonar Cube where a profile can tell you that how bad it is, right? How many code smells and how many, you know, stuff like that. If you look at tools like Mabel, and even Selenium is working on it, that it says, okay, let me put an AI in place where I will figure out the X path and I will replace it for you. You don't have to do the maintenance. So I'm sure that there will be a day which will say, okay, here is my Sonar report. These are the things I don't like. Let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and do all these modifications. Like on a huge Word document, how you do Control F and, you know, use, or you do a spell check or something like that, and it says, you know, ye nahi chahiye, ye nahi chahiye, ye nahi chahiye.
Right.
So I think definitely we are moving into that direction. How these, you know, if for example, I think in couple of years, I think definitely Selenium is going to be there, where it can automatically detect what has changed, and it will not fail. Instead of that, it will say, okay, this is how it looks like. Let me come up with a different XPath name for this new thing which is out there, and let me replace it for you.
Yeah.
You know, so that is going to happen very soon. API doesn't have that kind of stuff, but yes, what in API in contract testing, for example, we are comparing two structure of two APIs, right?
Correct.
So there I feel that maybe there can be a possibility where it says, okay, hey, listen, I think these two APIs, provider consumer, are going to clash because their expectations have changed. Do you want me to revert it to the previous version or no?
Right.
So that you don't have to do heavy lifting right away, and you correct it and then push it so that in one go it basically fixes on production.
Right.
So that means predictive calling of potential bugs on production, on lower environment, and handling the release accordingly, right? But once it comes to unit, I think it is mostly done then. I mean, after that, 60-70% of stuff. So this is what my perspective is on that. This is how I feel the automation is going to pan out, make our life easy like any other things, like, you know.
I certainly hope so. I hope that people realize that automation is not just about converting a bunch of already written test cases into scripts that your tool can run.
Yeah.
There is a lot more that automation has to offer. And that's why I don't prefer using the word test automation. I just use automation. For me, it's automation in testing.
Absolutely.
I know that people like saying, well, so there are different ways of putting it. Some people say automation testing, which is absurd. You are not testing automation. you are actually, testing. So it's just like manual testing. So automation testing is non-existent. Then the other term, popular term, is test automation. I can live with it, but I still don't find myself very comfortable with it. So that's why I say automation in testing. It's basically you're trying to automate different aspects of testing. You can do a lot of other things, making the use of a tool to run a particular script to validate something, yeah, that is also
Yeah.
automation.
Yeah.
So that's just a small part.
Absolutely. No,
That's
I completely agree with you. But I do feel, Brijesh, I mean, just putting my thought out that I do feel that AI is at some point will catch up with the test strategy part,
Mhm.
right? And when it happens, then the automation will ease out a little bit more. Like,
Absolutely. It's too early to make a call on what AI is actually going to be doing, but if people put enough thought around it and if it is intelligently used,
yeah,
then they say artificial intelligence, but it has to be used intelligently by people as to
correct,
make it effective enough.
correct.
All right, we've had some very serious testing discussions. I'm going to make it a little light. We move into our rapid fire section of the interview. I have a few questions for you. You have 5 seconds to think of a response.
Sure,
And if it's a multiple choice question, you have to tell the reason why.
sure.
Okay, first question. Mumbai or Pune?
Now Pune is home now. 5 years. Less people. It is good.
Less people? Okay.
I mean, Mumbai has its own set of advantages, but the weather is nice here. Pune has given me so much. I think I'll stick to Pune now. I've changed. I've converted.
Well, I lived for more than 20 years in Bangalore before I moved to Mumbai. And, work took me to Pune as well.
Hmm.
But, once my feeling was once somebody goes to Mumbai,
Hmm.
Mumbai becomes like,
Yeah.
Mumbai just gets into your blood. Okay.
Yeah.
And even though I've been living here in the Netherlands for 5 years, I still get that vibe. I just want to go to Mumbai and just be
Yeah.
there for some time, just
True. I grew up there, and when I stepped out of Mumbai, it was horrible for me because I thought, there is nothing like Mumbai. I was craving to. I landed up in Pune because I wanted to be closer to Mumbai.
yeah.
But now over the years, like I found that I like the pace of Pune and how things are panning out here. And to be honest, at this point, if you're asked this question, I'll say Pune. Maybe after 2 years, if I go back to Mumbai and stay there for some time, I'll say Mumbai. but yes, I mean, I agree with you because a lot of sentimental value of Mumbai for
No,
me, at least.
and one of the good things that you spoke about is the pace. And
Yeah,
it's very difficult to match the pace of Mumbai.
yeah,
And every other city that I've been to after visiting Mumbai has been slow for me.
mm,
Okay, comparatively similar pace, not exactly similar, but yeah,
mm,
somewhat similar. New York. Okay, but apart from that,
yeah,
all other cities in the world where I have been to,
mm,
yeah, to some extent London. Okay, to
yeah,
some extent, okay,
yeah,
close enough.
mm,
But Mumbai is Mumbai. Okay,
mm.
and anyways, moving to
But
the
one more thing before you go. No matter how much money you make in such cities, including Mumbai, you will always feel like a lower middle class. So that's enough.
absolutely, absolutely until you have enough money to build another what is it called, Antilla, right?
Handle, yes. You have to get onto the train, you have to get pushed, you have to get, humbled by a crowd. So that is
I still remember taking that journey between Thane and Vikhroli every day by train to get to work in Powai, and
Mm.
it was like an early morning body massage every day. Even though I used to travel first class, but
Ah,
but that used to be super crowded.
mm.
So,
I,
but it
I,
was fun, it was fun.
mm,
Evenings, okay, we would find some excuse, take a rickshaw back home because you're extremely tired. You don't want
mm.
to again travel by the train or whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
mornings, every day, that was the grind.
that is
And
the case.
and at some point of time, it was like fun. Okay, if you
Yeah,
don't do that, it will be like I'm missing something.
yeah,
So, anyways, I'll move on to my next question. And
sure.
my next question is, if you had the opportunity of changing anything in your life so far, Okay, one thing that you would like to change, what would that be?
The realization of figuring out that everything has its own pros and cons, a better control on my biases. Probably if that can be controlled and realized early, I think that can be a game changer.
Awesome, awesome. I quite like that. And now the final question. So I'm a foodie. I love to know what people like to eat. So
Yeah.
what's your favorite food?
My favorite food, there are a bunch of it. If you go to my Instagram, it is my Instagram handle is foodie woody because you said that. So there are two foodies in this conversation, but so there is a bunch of it basically. So I like Southeast Asian food, not specifically Chinese, but apart from that, I love good Italian food. And I'm a decent cook myself. I'm a Punjabi, so I can make some good Punjabi food as well, specifically butter chicken and stuff like that. So yeah, these are my three
So
categories which I can.
Punjabi food. I mean, what are your feelings about Rajma Chawal?
Oh, absolutely. They're very close to. They have sentimental value. And if now have you said that, and if folks who knows that what kind of Rajma Chawal you get to, if you've ever been to Jammu area, like with Anand and stuff like that, and if you've ever been to Vaishno Devi and that area, so you know how that's like the epitome of Rajma Chawal. It cannot get better than that, right? I mean, any dish cannot just match up to that.
Well,
So
I have heard so much about the Jammu Rajma Chawal. I so and all of this I have heard very recently. The time during this pandemic, so I haven't gone out of Netherlands in the past 1.5 years, a little more than that now. So the next visit to India,
yeah,
I'm going to plan a trip to Jammu just for that Rajma Chawal.
absolutely. Give me a message when you're here. I will tell you the right spots, and I'm sure you will love it.
Good.
So yes, please.
This is one advantage of doing TesterSpeak. I was speaking to Naveen, Naveen Pudeta, and he's also a food lover, and he told me that one of his aspirations is to be a food critic. So I think all of us will do a great job at that.
So that brings me to an interesting, aspect how I look at it. I think testers has to be sensitive people. Yeah. If I say sensitive people, that means their cardinal traits should be experience driven. So they are naturally driven towards good experience like food, travel, art. They have, there is a common trait. So that's why we are in this profession, to be honest. Our traits are like that.
Absolutely. Well, really, really, really interesting answers. Gaurav, fun, rapid fire. Now, before I let you go, I want to ask you one last question. So if Gaurav wasn't into the world of testing and he wasn't doing all the cool things that he has been doing so far, testing across different domains, testing across different technologies, doing all different kinds of things with testing. If you weren't doing all this, what else would have you been doing?
I thought about it at some point in my life, and I'll tell you an honest answer of this. I don't know what I would have been doing, but whatever I was doing, I would have been doing. I would have been good at it. That thing is for it.
I can bet on it. Yeah.
So because I could figure out that no matter what you do, there is a way which is cutting across irrespective of what you do, how you can excel at it, how you can be better at it. And it is more behavioral rather than anything else. So maybe I could have been into networking. I could have been a good network engineer. Maybe I could have been a developer. I could have been a stand-up comic, maybe a food critic. I could have been into sales, maybe, right? So these are the possible things which comes across my mind. Of course, when I started my career, of course, food critic and stand-up comedy were not like a serious professions, but maybe one of the other things which I said. But whatever I was doing, I think I would have approached my work with the same sort of ethics and you can say techniques, and
So,
I would
so,
have.
so is being a stand-up comic one of your aspirations?
Not aspiration, but yes, I have been doing some of the stuff somewhere. You will not find me on YouTube. I used to do a little bit of writing in my early ages in my school as well, and thanks to KB, I used to write in Hindi at some point of time. I still have affinity towards good writing, and whether it is in Hindi, Urdu. Well, culture is what fascinates me.
Yeah.
I come from Punjab, and then to be very honest, we have shared borders with Pakistan. Punjab is divided into between this thing. So there is a lot of Sufi, and there's a lot of influence. Like there's that's going to be a long conversation. But yes, good writing and culture of any particular place. Like even for example, I'm staying in Maharashtra. I am very keen. I keep reading about the culture of Maharashtra, saints of Maharashtra, poets of Maharashtra. I was in Bangalore for 3 years. I kept on reading about the poets and the rich culture and the history of that state. And so I'm very open to the diversity, as I said.
How many Kuvempu poems did you read while in Karnataka?
Not many, but not many, to be honest, because initially I was trying to learn Karnataka as well. I could elementary some proficiency I could build, but at the same time I was looking at translation. Sometimes in translation you lose the essence, right? I mean, because of articulation and stuff like that, but you try to dig out the essence of it, like the take of the poet or the writer. But I also kind of paid attention to the pre-independence history of that state, kind of very I would say the glory of their pre-independence struggle, and the folks from Mangalore and Mysore, and how their stories is not in our main.
Oh yes, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah. In fact, I lived in Bangalore for a long time. I still have my home there. My father stays in Bangalore, and so while we were in school in 7th standard, suddenly the Central Board of Secondary Education decided that the students should learn the regional language of the state where they are. Okay. And so obviously they introduced Kannada as a subject.
Yeah.
We had it only for 1 year, and then the government sort of dropped the plan.
Okay.
But then in that 1 year, I learned enough to read, write, and speak. So I can do all three of them, especially with Kannada. And knowing the script, it became easy for me to even read Telugu, because the script is pretty much the same, except for a few changes, few subtle nuances are there in Telugu which are different from Kannada, and so that was one big advantage. And Kannada is definitely one of my favorite languages in India. And the thing about Kannada, just like any other Indian language, is that within the state you will find multiple variations of that language. There are different dialects, and there are different dialects, and even within the city of Bangalore, there is one tone which is quite rough compared to the rest, which is more like a street Kannada. Okay, which is typical in Bangalore. It's like two rowdies talking to each other.
Exactly. The way they call people, right? I mean, the way.
And sometimes at home with my brother, or even my wife can speak Kannada. So sometimes we get into that fun mode and we start talking. That conversation becomes so funny. Now that we look at it, it's like.
Yeah.
And then dad has to intervene saying, are you hooligans?
Yeah. I see your point. I think that happens with every language, right? I mean, for example, I hail basically from Punjab. Punjab has 5 regions, and 5 regions have different dialect, and
Yeah.
the the script itself is like sometimes Gurmukhi, as they call it.
Yes.
Then my wife grew up in. She's also Punjabi, but she grew up in Rajasthan. Like I grew up in Mumbai and Delhi. Of course, Maharashtra has different regions and different
She
subcultures.
also a KB product?
Sorry, she's not. She's not.
Okay.
She's not. She's a Sophia product basically.
Okay.
So. So she's from Kota, Rajasthan, where all the coaching and everything.
Yeah. Kota is the hot spot in India.
So I the point I was trying to raise is that I definitely agree with you with cultures within cultures, right, within one state. So yes, that is a fascinating thing for me. It excites me, the food, the culture, the language. It definitely holds my interest. So that is one part of it. Yes.
Well, Gaurav, I would definitely like to read some of your stuff, and we'll look try and look for you on Instagram and see and
Sure.
and learn about different things about food. And of course, we'll reach out to you when I'm in India next for that address for Rajma Chawal in Jammu.
Please,
This is that is one very important item in my checklist right now.
Yes.
Forget about testing and everything else. That Rajma Chawal has to be tasted because
Has to be up there. Yes, right on the top.
it is definitely important. It was fun talking to you, Gaurav, today. And I know you are extremely busy. You are in the middle of a transition. You're shifting, and still you gave me time. Thank you so much for doing this. We will definitely do a chapter 2. I am very close to announcing a chapter 2 with all the speakers that I've already spoken to, apart from continuing to speak with more testers, because all of these conversations, I feel that even this 1 hour is not enough, because conversations in testing can go on for a long time, and there are a lot of things to be discussed. So we'll catch up again.
Absolutely.
And of course, the test chat is there, and we can talk about it. So thank you so much for your time today. I wish you the very best.
Sure, Brijesh. I would like to congratulate you. I think you are diligently taking time out, having this conversation, putting it out there for everybody's consumption. That's a great initiative. I hope people understand that how much of effort, discipline it takes for you to kind of ensure that you get the right meat out and put it out there for everybody's consumption, and people can leverage it. They can learn so much out of these conversations and apply in their careers. So I think you are doing a great job. Thank you so much.
Gaurav. Thank you. That is really kind of you. Really kind of you. I do it purely with the interest of learning. I like I said, every tester has a unique journey, and we can learn from every tester, irrespective of the number of years of experience they have. Because one of the youngest testers to have appeared on the show is Balaji Sanatana Gopalan. And when I interviewed him, he had only 1 year of experience, not even 1 year, but he had so much stuff to share, which was incredible. So we learn from all testers, and I've interviewed testers who have 25 years of experience and more. So it's knowledge everywhere. So you speak to testers, you get the knowledge. So thank you so much. It was really interesting talking to you, and we'll catch up.
Thank you, Brijesh.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.